It is the middle of the week, and we're getting into prime time here on Newsmax TV. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show. America sees darkness on the horizon. The specter of the Socialist Party gaining power in our nation once again has Americans angry, fearful, and on edge. Socialist Democrats have declared war on our constitutional rights, our freedom of expression, and our ability to create wealth and opportunity in this country. They've done this in partnership with America's strongest enemies, from Iran to communist China. And now the same people who work to prop up terrorist regimes and inhuman communist thugs may be returning to finish the job President Obama started. Leftists have set their sights on our nation's entrepreneurs. Using the China virus as the excuse, liberals have unleashed an unprecedented attack on America's small businesses, despite those attacks being found to be grounded in ideology rather than science. Tonight, this show is dedicated to giving voice to America's business owners, a voice socialists in and out of government are working to silence. Trish Regan will be here to analyze their stories. And in the meantime, I thought I'd demonstrate how socialist Democrats are working to place your family at risk in an effort to deliver for criminals. Dangerous Democrats, one of the biggest threats we face. That's the reality check we give in tonight's preamble. In the great state of Texas, a socialist Democrat by the name of Terry Meza is working to modify that state's Castle Doctrine. In her own words, here's what Meza is trying to do. Quote, "What my bill will do, if passed, would require a homeowner to exhaust the potential of safely retreating into their habitation before using deadly force in defense of themselves or their property," end quote. In other words, if someone breaks into your house, Democrat socialists want you to retreat so that criminals can rip you off without your pesky interference. Of course, this is crazy. The idiocy of such policies was demonstrated by a recent incident in Louisiana. A homeowner there shot 4 armed invaders last week, killing 2 of them after they broke into the house carrying guns. No sane person would blame the homeowner for protecting his family and property from thugs who would violate somebody's home. Well, nobody but socialist Democrats. Imagine a left-wing utopia that would prosecute the victims of a crime because they stood up to the lawless thugs rather than let them ply their despicable trade. Now, sadly, this concept is nothing new among Democrats. Earlier this year, Dallas District Attorney John Creuzot announced he would no longer prosecute theft so long as the value of the merchandise was less than $750. But the absurdity doesn't stop there, my friends. WorldNet Daily has published a story about a socialist in Seattle. Lisa Erbold voted to defund her police department as a member of the Seattle City Council. After this nitwit was victimized by a crime, who'd she call? Yep, she called the cops to report said crime. Last Friday, Erbold reported to police that a man threw a rock at the living room window of her West Seattle home. But that's not where the irony stops, my friends. You see, Erbold is pushing something called a poverty defense, a proposal in Seattle. This new ordinance would allow most misdemeanor suspects off the hook if they commit a crime in order to meet a basic need. Get that? A criminal can steal from you consequence-free so long as they are poor and are doing so to fulfill a, quote, basic need. This outrageous and non-scientific idea is ludicrous on many levels. First, this is what liberal elites ridden with politically correct guilt think of poor people. They think your poverty drives you to a life of crime. Hunter Biden, a boy born with an expensive crack pipe in his mouth, disproves that silly notion all by himself. But the most salient point here is that Democrats care about the basic needs of criminals, not the basic needs of law-abiding citizens. Americans have a basic need to be secure in our person, papers, and effects. You know, I remember reading that somewhere. Oh, yeah, that's the 4th Amendment, the U.S. Constitution, right? Speaking of the founding document, that's the Democrats' favorite target as a mechanism to strike at you. Ilhan Omar, a congresswoman from Minnesota, told MSNBC yesterday that she is pushing Joe Biden to ignore the will of the people and implement crippling and massive change through executive fiat.
That what gets accomplished in the first 100 days are important for an administration, and we're asking, President-elect Biden and Harris to use their executive power in increasing the minimum wage to $15 for federal workers. We're asking them to use their executive power to declare the climate crisis as a national emergency. We're asking them to use their executive power in strengthening OSHA protections. We're asking them to use their executive power in, reinstating things like temporary protection status for so many people in our country. There are so many things that need to get done in regards to undoing the damage that has been done in the last 4 years.
No more representative republic, folks. It's all gone. You heard it right here second, right from the little election cheating ingrate's mouth. The good news is we here on Newsmax TV, we have the intelligence to learn from what we just heard. That's a lesson that MSNBC and their audience, well, they can't even grasp. Our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor are under threat from brutal, lawless, and unscrupulous left-wingers. From BLM to Pelosi, from Antifa to AOC, from Biden to China, as they overreach, empower criminals, and bypass our voices, far more than 75 million Americans will be asking some very simple questions. Chief among them will be this. If our political enemies don't feel constrained by our laws or our Constitution, what obligations do we have to follow any of their edicts or pronouncements? When President Trump won election, liberals in and out of government created what they called the resistance. The press didn't condemn this. Hell, some of them even supported the idea. As socialist Democrats become a threat to you and your family and your God-given rights, how long before they face pushback in the form of the rebellion?
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.